I've got good news and bad news about the Blue Jackets game against Tampa Bay. They didn't win, but they also didn't collapse in the third. So we'll talk about the positives, the negatives, and the injuries in today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jacket, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, and on SiriusXM. And I also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app, use promo code Locked On NHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So we talked about all of the ways in the last episode on Friday's episode, I believe it was. We talked about all of the ways that the Blue Jackets could beat the Tampa Bay Lightning or at least hold them off. And if I remember rightly, one of the big things was do not let them go on the power play because their power play is fully insane. It was first in the league. It continues to be first in the league. And they scored 2 out of 3 attempts, which, okay, the Blue Jackets did a really great job on that first power play / penalty kill. Kent Johnson with a double minor. They killed off the first one, and then I think they made it like 2 minutes and 6 seconds into the 4-minute kill. So like they killed off the first one, and then the second one, they scored on basically immediately, which makes sense. 4 minutes is a long time to kill. Nick Paul, who was the guy that got high sticked, scored the goal. Really, really great assist from Brandon Hagel, who I thought had an excellent game. He has really turned into something in Tampa Bay, which is annoying for many reasons, but it is what it is. Blue Jackets just looked rusty for most of the first period, and like they picked it up a little bit in the second. I thought they had a good third. Managed to even out the shot attempts. I thought Vasilevsky was great. 2 goals on 35 shots. I thought Elvis was also fine. He had 3 goals on 37, which is obviously, coming off a shutout. He's had a solid couple of games in a row. He had a 917 save percentage. Made 28 of 29 even strength saves, and then the power play is just so good, and it makes sense that that's how this is shook out. Yeah, they're over 30% on the power play right now, which that's so many. That's just so many. They have, I think I looked it up and did the math. Their top 2 power play goal scorers, Stamkos and Kucherov, have more power play goals between them than the entirety of the Blue Jackets. So it is what it is. I like the game as a whole. I thought it was a frustrating game, and I don't think it didn't feel like a 4-2 game. They scored 1 goal in the first period. They scored a goal in the second period. They made it 3-0 in the third period. Again, Steven Stamkos is still one of the most is he underrated? I don't know that you can call Steven Stamkos underrated, but he is kind of, I think, one of the kind of the lesser thought about threats in terms of goal scoring. You think about Ovechkin, you think about Matthews, but Stamkos is up there for my money. Great to see Boone Jenner get a couple of goals. He, I believe, is now tied for the team lead in goals with 15. Great to see a power play goal from the Blue Jackets, because again, I'm just always really pleased when they score on the power play, because I'm so conditioned to them not doing that. And they fought back in the third period, and that's kind of one of my things on the side here, is that they didn't collapse in the third period. Did they do all of their collapsing before that? Yes, a little bit. It was 3-0 when Bujana scored that first goal to make it 3-1. 12:22 in the third, and then 3 minutes later, Bujana scores again on power play. 2 primary assists for Johnny Gaudreau, so he's up to 27 assists on the year, which is great. Again, Zach Werenski had an assist in the game. Kirill Marchenko had an assist as well. Zach Werenski's going to score one of these days. He had a bunch of really great opportunities. I thought, just pulling up his shot numbers, he had 5 shots in the game. He's going to get one eventually. He has to. Played 26 minutes, which, sure, I guess. Erica Branson, I thought, had a shockingly good game, which, again, maybe this season I will have to stop being surprised when he has good games, because he has been extremely decent in a lot of these games. Almost had a goal. I don't know what his scoring chances were like individually, but I thought he had a pretty great game. Let's see. Individual scoring chances for Gabranson. Okay, he didn't have any scoring chances, I don't think, but he had 2 individual shot attempts, and he had an individual expected goals of 0.3. So I'll take that. Again, he's been good. He had a good game, I thought. The defense, I thought, was solid, which sounds silly when they had 37 shot attempts, but I'm standing by that. In terms of high danger 5-on-5, the Blue Jackets actually had more high danger shot attempts than the Lightning. They had 15 to the Lightning's 13. They created more. They had a higher expected goals for. They had expected goals for of 3.04. Expected goals against of 2.6. This is all at 5-on-5, by the way. So, this is not taking the power play into account because, quite frankly, I don't want to take the power play into account. But there were a lot of good things to like about this game. Unfortunately, there were some bad things to dislike about this game, as the injuries just keep on coming. We're going to talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you guys about Sleeper, because we are fully into the second half of the season, and the Blue Jackets are continuing to be where they are, which is near the bottom of the league. Regardless of where we are in the current standings, you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. They're our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because you can win 100 times your cash in those contests with Sleeper, which sounds pretty great to me. Entries can be made in under a minute. They've got NFL, NBA, MLB, college football. They've got everything. All you have to do is pick whether guys like Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Jenner, Gaudreau, Merzlikins are going to record more or less of their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times your money on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You hope you're right, Blue Jackets fans. You can win 100 times your money, and all you have to do is get 8 questions right. Start paying attention, nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That is code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The injury news just keeps on coming. The Blue Jackets get Werenski back, they get Boquist back, they get Jenner back. Fantilli is, I don't know if I covered this on the podcast actually, because it was announced over the All-Star break. Adam Fantilli out for probably the next 7 weeks. It's been about 6 or 7 weeks. It's been about a week and a half since his injury. Calf laceration, which sounds nasty and stressful. He's living his best life. He's watching hockey in Michigan, which I do think is very funny, and I love that for him. And Yegor Chinakhov is now out. He didn't travel with the team to Ottawa, where they are playing tomorrow night. We'll talk about that game in a second here. They're hoping to get him back before they go out west. So they've got their California road trip starting on Saturday. would love to see Yegor Chinakhov there because apparently I'm not going to see Adam Fantilli, which sucks. But I will be in the building for the game against the Sharks, and we'll see how it goes. That's way down the line in terms of thinking about anything. But this is, I think, an underrated or underrated loss for the Blue Jackets. I think this is going to be tough for the Blue Jackets. Yegor Chinakhov has been really hot recently, and extremely frustrating injury because it looked almost like a nothing injury, if I'm being honest. Like, it was, I think did he get high sticked, I think? Went to get some work done and then just never came back. He's currently 6th on the team in scoring with 24 points, and he is 2nd on the team in goals. He's got 14 goals on the season. Like, that's when you factor in the fact that you're missing Adam Fantilli, who's tied for 3rd in scoring. Like, your 3rd and 4th highest goal scorers are done. Or not done. But Chinakhov definitely out for the game against Ottawa. Big loss, because, again, he's been one of the only players that can actually score goals recently, and that's extremely frustrating for many reasons. I have liked Chinakhov's game so much this season. I think he definitely has things that he can improve on. I think he definitely has things that, he has some growing still to do, but you're starting to see flashes or like extended stretches of what the scouting staff in Columbus saw when they drafted this kid that no one had ever heard of at 20th overall instead of anyone else. Chinakhov is sitting, he's about at 50% in terms of possession numbers on the ice. He has got a above 50% goals for percentage while he's on the ice, and he has a just under 4%, just under 50% expected goals for percentage. So, like, he's creating a lot of offense. He's not like the best defensive forward that I've ever seen in my life, but I don't think that you need him to be. And I think a lot of the struggles with that line have come from the fact that Cole Sillinger is still figuring out his defensive game. He's going to get there. I think he's looked really good. Obviously, he got bumped down to a different line in favor of putting Jenna with Gaudreau, which I do think is fine. I am okay with Jenna and Gaudreau on the same line. They have good chemistry. Obviously, they had a pretty good go of things last night. 2 primary assists for Gaudreau on both of Jenna's goals. But losing Chinakhov, I think, is we're gonna have to shuffle all of the lines around. Emil Bemstrom is probably gonna come back into the lineup and play somewhere. Like, I don't know where he goes. Like, do you put him on that top line? Do you bump? I think they bumped Roslovic up for practice yesterday, Sunday. Like, you don't want to break up, in my opinion, anyway. You don't want to break up you don't want to break up that Voronkov line, the Voronkov Marchenko Johnson line, despite the fact that it played not a lot of minutes. Voronkov with 13, Kent Johnson with 13.5. Marchenko played 18, but that's again because he gets a lot of power play time. But you don't want to break that line up. The 4th line is clicking along happily. Corrali, Olivier, and Danforth. So I guess, your options on that top line are Texier, potentially, Roslovic, which looks like that's what's going to happen, or Bemstrom, and none of those options really thrill me for your top line winger, but we'll figure that out when it comes to it. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that Roslovic will probably get that spot, which is, again, fine, but frustrating, but also, who else are you going to put there? I don't think there were any other injuries. I'll be interested to see what happens with goaltending. That's not an injury thing. That's just Elvis has played 2 straight games and played well. Do you put Tarasov back in there for a game and see what happens? I genuinely don't know. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you guys about FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers are going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Literally, all you have to do, find the heaviest favorite, whether it's NBA, whether it's NHL, like whether it's college sports, whatever. Just find the heaviest favorite you can, put $5 on it. If you win, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets to spend on literally anything. Bet on all your favorite NBA players or teams. They've got quick bets, they've got live same game parlays, they've got exclusive props and more. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA, and also us, the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking all about tomorrow's game against the Ottawa Senators, because I have a feeling that this game is going to be extremely stupid. I feel like the first game was extremely stupid. I'm just pulling that up now. The Blue Jackets, they sure did. They were down 2-0 and then scored 4 straight goals, including 2 power play goals, to beat the Senators, to beat Korpisalo. It's going to be another kind of one of those games, I think. Also, the Blue Jackets had 4 goals on 23 shots. The Senators had 2 goals on 43 shots. So, another great night for Elvis back then in, when was this? December. The beginning of December / the end of November. So that kind of, to go back to my thought about the goaltending, like Elvis played really well against the Senators last time, but he's played the last 2 games. Tarasov hasn't played since like the very beginning of February. Like his last game, I think, would probably have been the Seattle game, which would have been like the January 30th. So what do you do? Do you throw Tarasov in there to get him a start? Do you put Elvis in there because he's played well the past couple of games? Tarasov hasn't. It's juggling goaltending is tricky. And I've never really thought about specifically how tricky it is based on what do you want from your team? Like, do you go with the hot hand? Do you go with the young guy? Do you give Elvis a rest? Obviously, they're going out west soon, so I wonder if you play Elvis in this game and then Tarasov gets a game in California. On the flip side, the Senators have been struggling with their goaltending. Korpisalo has not been what they hoped he would be. He's got an .890 save percentage. He's 13-16-2. Anton Forsberg 7-8 with an .889 save percentage. I would be happy with Elvis over either of those guys, quite frankly. Suspect you'll probably see Korpisalo, because I don't believe the Senators played or play tonight as of the time of recording this, because it's Monday lunchtime ish. Their next game is us. They played last night, so Sunday night, Saturday night, I think. The big drama with the Leafs. So it's been a couple of days for them. So I would imagine that they will probably put Korpisalo out there. My guess is Korpisalo versus Merzlikins. In terms of players to watch for the Senators, Shane Pinto has returned from his gambling suspension and has been very good for them. In terms of points, obviously he's got 7 points in 7 games right now, 3 goals, 4 assists since returning, and he's doing that on less than 17 minutes of ice time a game. Tim Stützle I feel like Tim Stützle is having a kind of a down season for him, but he's still got 47 points in 48 games. Giroux, 43 points in 48 games. Kachuk, 41 points in 48 games. They have so many guys that have more points than the Blue Jackets. I think their top 5 scorers have more points than anyone on the Blue Jackets. So it'll be interesting. This is a team that's built to score goals. It's not really a team that's built for goaltending. So if the Blue Jackets can exploit that, I think there's definitely something there. Both teams are bad at basically everything. 24th on the power play for Ottawa, 25th for the Blue Jackets, 28th on the penalty kill for Ottawa, 26th for the Blue Jackets. Goals for per game. Yeah, they score a ton of goals for. They score 3.38 goals, which is 10th in the league, but they allow 3.6, which is 30th in the league. Blue Jackets only score 2.9 goals a game, which is 23rd. They allow 3.67, which is 31st. So, like, the Senators are built to score goals. If the Blue Jackets can do what they did last time and score a few quick goals, like near the end of the game, this feels like an extremely winnable game, if I'm being honest. The Senators have swapped coaches since the last time, so I'll be interested to see what the team looks like after that. But this was one of the games that I marked as probably winnable for the Blue Jackets. And as we all know, the Blue Jackets sometimes like to lose extremely winnable games. So this is not me saying, hey, the Blue Jackets are definitely going to win this game. It's going to be great. Everyone should watch and put a bunch of money on them at FanDuel. But of the 32 games after the All-Star break, this was one of the ones that I had marked as the 10 winnable games for the Blue Jackets. So we'll see. In terms of predictions, I do think the Blue Jackets are going to win this. Senators are on a 3-game winning streak right now. Blue Jackets have 2 wins in their last 5, 3 in their last 10. Have a chance to win back-to-back games if they win today and against the Sharks. Like if they win today, they play their next game, I believe, is the Sharks on Saturday. And again, extremely winnable game. So who knows? The Blue Jackets could win back. If the Blue Jackets win against Ottawa, like they've got a chance to win back-to-back games for the first time since November, and I think that would be fun. In terms of scoring, I'm gonna go with, I think this is gonna be a 3-2 Blue Jackets win. Please don't go to overtime, but I think it's gonna be 3-2. And I'm gonna say that Zach Werenski breaks his scoring drought. It's been, I think, literally the longest scoring drought of his entire career. It's been maybe 40 games since he last scored a goal, which seems insane. Because he's still like second on the team in points because he just keeps racking up assists. He's got his shooting percentage is going to jump above like 0.9 eventually. It has to. I believe in it. So I'm putting money on Zach Werenski to score for the Blue Jackets. And that's kind of all I've got for today. Tomorrow we are going to have another draft profile. We're going to have Sebastian High of Locked On NHL Prospect here. We're going to talk about Michael Brandzeig-Nygaard, who is a very underrated, fun forward that the Blue Jackets could target if they end up with a second first-round pick in the upcoming draft. So that's going to be tomorrow's episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode, for making us your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, over on YouTube and on SiriusXM. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email us at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening, for making us your first listen of the day. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.